No, we're gonna preach. I'm gonna preach. Okay, and you should be at the killing facilities tomorrow morning when they're murdering children.
My wife's an OB nurse. Okay, I know what goes on.
Okay, then why aren't you out there? Why don't you go out there tomorrow morning to seek to rescue them from death instead of going inside a building to talk about the authority of the Bible?
Them instead of preaching to the choir.
We're not preaching to the choir. If you have events planned on Saturday morning when they're slaughtering children in this area, and you're going to come here and talk about the Bible while children are being murdered. Do you understand how insane that is? It's time to disturb the peace. Oh, it's time. It's time to wake up, friends. Children are going to be mass murdered tomorrow morning.
Get out of our way.
Children are going to be mass murdered tomorrow morning in this area, inside killing facilities. While people go to a conference and talk about the authority of the Bible, what's the point of talking about how the Bible is the authority if you're not going to obey the Bible? What's the point of studying the Bible and reading the Bible if you're not going to obey what God commands in the Bible? The book of James says that pure and undefiled religion before God the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their affliction and to keep oneself unstained from the world. Where are the people at this conference going to be tomorrow morning when there are orphans who desperately need to be visited in their affliction? They need your help. They need your love. They need your care. They need your support. They need your voice. They need you to be visible.
You're violating a noise ordinance. Okay, you have the right to be on public property, but not to be making noise like that.
Okay. What's the decibel level for the noise ordinance?
Way too loud.
Well, what's way too loud?
You have to get a permit from the village if you're going to use a megaphone.
Okay.
It's not
I won't use the megaphone. I could use my natural voice though, right? Because I have free speech.
I sympathize with you guys. I know you have your camera on.
Yep.
I'm a born-again Christian too.
Cool.
I'm totally sympathetic with you guys.
They need to hear this. They need to see these songs.
I get it. But now you got neighbors across the street who are yelling at you guys, and it's...
Yeah,
It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. Kids are going to be mass murdered tomorrow morning.
I totally get it.
Okay.
I get it.
Okay.
But
the peace
they have a right to not be disturbed.
Where? Who's the
guy across the street shouting at you?
Yeah, he won't come over and talk to us.
I know. There's
But the people here need to be disturbed. They're at peace with child sacrifice. You go to the abortion mills, there's almost nobody out there.
I don't think these people are Christians.
Yeah, so-called Christians ignore mass murder every day.
I can say I've been going to the abortion mills for years. It's embarrassing how many Christians do not show up. It's embarrassing. It's shameful.
The response is pathetic.
We care. It's like, no, you don't. There's no Christians at the abortion mills. Christians don't talk about it. And when you do talk about it, they want to shut you up. When we come to a conference and raise awareness, they want to shut you up. I'm saying that from experience.
You're not raising awareness, you're raising your own ignorance.
Ignorance?
Christians talk about it all the time.
No, they don't, sir.
I think we should be able to have this conversation without attitude.
Exactly.
I mean, I'd love to just have a discussion with you.
Sure.
My full-time ministry is at a rescue mission, helping homeless, okay? And you guys are doing your thing. Some of our staff members go to the abortion.
Good.
They do that. And I think what I thought walking to the car is that when you're shouting on that, this guy's mad, obviously, that's his deal. But you're making an assumption that everybody that's here is not doing what you're doing. You're making and that's not right. You're making an assumption that we don't care. And you're also making an assumption that everybody here is from this area, it seems like. We're not. I'm from Wisconsin.
Okay, all across the country, the same people see the same thing wherever they go. Massive neglect of justice and mercy when they're living in history's most devastating Holocaust, when there are children being murdered left and right all over the place. We see the fruit of false conversion. We see the fruit of false Christianity everywhere. People go to conferences and they talk about the Bible while they don't obey the Bible. And it's time to wake people up.
The authority of the word and living by it. And
Yeah.
I would say that there's a lot of people here that are doing that. They may not do the exact same thing you're doing. So if I don't go to the abortion clinic, but I'm trying to take somebody whose life is ruined and they've ruined their family's lives and change them and transform their lives from sin to sanctify and following Christ, you're saying that what you're doing is better than what I'm doing, that what you're doing is right and what I'm doing is wrong.
I'm telling you that you need to practice pure and undefiled religion before God the Father, which is described in the book of James as visiting orphans and widows in their affliction and keeping oneself unstained from the world. I'm telling you there are orphans who desperately need you to visit them in their affliction. You should also think about how would you live your life if born children were being taken into killing facilities in this area and being slaughtered. Would you go out there for born children? Would it be an urgent issue for you? Would you be talking about it more if they were born children? Because if you would be living your life differently if they were born children, you're in sin because you're discriminating against people based on their age. You're treating two different people differently.
I'm going to the born children in poverty and providing a school to teach them.
That's good.
To a homeless shelter.
That's good.
I think what we're disagreeing about is the view that Paul has of the body, that there's many parts and they're all doing something different. You're doing your thing, and I'm not going to say it's wrong. I think it's good. I think you're right. I think it's murder. I agree with you on all those things. I'm doing what I can. You can't do everything. I can't do everything.
Sure.
The church is big enough that we should all be able to do our parts.
Okay, how are you using your gifts and talents to address the abortion holocaust, the people who are being targeted by mass murder?
These people are the most needy people in the world. Those who are going to be murdered tomorrow morning 6 miles from here are the most needy people in this area, and most Christians are going to ignore them.
So we should all use our gifts and talents. We all have different abilities. We have different ways things that we're good at, and we should come together and use those together to target different things. And we should give time and resources and energy to each need in our community, like according to the level of need, right? Like we should prioritize the needs of the people who are in need around us, right? So we're saying this is a priority. This should be a really high priority.
Absolutely. And we have homeless women and children that come into our shelter, and we counsel the women against abortion.
That's great.
In order to be qualified for the women's and children's shelter, you have to have children in your custody. They're legally right to, or you can be expecting. And some of the women who come in who are expecting are definitely thinking or on their way to the abortion clinic, and we counsel and say, no, that is not the right way to do it. We will help you with adoption. We
That's
will
good.
help you with anything we can. I would rather see that child born and be in a bad foster care situation than not be born at all. They still
Sure.
have a chance.
Yeah.
And so we do.
That's
we
good.
do. And I think there's a lot of ministry that's supporting you on the side. Don't ignore it.
Okay.
Don't shout that we're all bad.
Well, it's very obviously inadequate, right? There's well over 40,000 children that are murdered every single year in this state. And I don't see people acting with urgency to put an end to that. I see a lot of people spending time doing trivial things that don't matter. They're not prioritizing correctly. They're not acting like they're living in a Holocaust. They're not even talking about it. They can't even post a status on social media about it. Like, that's absurd. They're not living the same way they would if born people were being massacred all over the place. So that's the problem. There's discrimination. There's sin, the sin of partiality, which is specifically warned against in the book of James. And we come here and people talk about the authority of the Bible while they refuse to obey what the Bible says. So we come and we say, hey, if you're going to say the Bible's your authority, you'd better live by it. You'd better obey it. Here are the people who desperately need your help. So please help them. Please act like you're living in a Holocaust. You know? So
I've been saying it for 10 years. Most Christians do not talk about this. And not just my own experience, but the experience of others who are older, who've been working to end this Holocaust for decades, say the same thing. Christians are apathetic, they don't care.
I hope you can see I can appreciate what you're doing, and I support you. I may not do the same thing you're doing, but it doesn't mean that I don't think it's a priority. It means that I'm doing what I can for the ministry I have.
Okay, yeah, and we need to think about what is the most effective methodology and what do these children actually need from us. So right now, we could probably change the culture pretty quickly if thousands of people showed up to the killing facilities tomorrow morning and shut them all down just with the pure number of thousands of people putting their bodies in front of them. We would make national news, and people would be like, whoa, Christians are actually acting like people are getting murdered. Maybe this is actually murder. And what if we did that week after week until it stopped? What if we were in the streets constantly exposing this and crying out for justice, so that like over time, people would grow up in a society in which Christians were always pointing this out and crying out against mass murder. And then when they grew up in that environment, they'd understand from the get-go, this is murder, this is wrong, and if you support this, you're some kind of bigot. We have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people who profess Christ in this area, and they do not do what is necessary to change the culture, the cultural mindset that is pervasive right now, which accepts this. But we could change the culture if we were a loud voice constantly, but we're not doing that. So we need to think about what methods are we going to use to be a very loud voice on a regular basis to reach millions of people, to reach tons of people on a regular basis, because that's how you change culture.
And your thing of thousands of people going there and some of them going to jail possibly, and
Sure,
then coming
sure.
back the next day and coming back the next day.
Sure.
I think that's a legitimate thing. I don't know if, when you say methodology, I'm not sure this methodology is working. This has been going on for a long time too, right?
Because of Christian silence.
The signs on the street and the megaphone.
The people who do it has been tiny numbers of people who do that.
Changing anything?
Well, no, because the number of people doing it is incredibly small. What if thousands of people were doing it like all the time?
What if thousands of people showed the urgency to rescue children that they would show if a guy were to come over here with an axe and start hacking us to pieces? We wouldn't say, well, I hope these people over here, and this is a special calling for somebody, but not me.
Like,
I'm going to pray and read the Bible and study it. No, that they would take that man down. So we're saying have the same urgency as you'd have towards pre-born children being murdered tomorrow morning 6 miles from here, and at other abortion mills, then you'd have to take down an axe murderer who's chopping people up right here. And we don't like, and that is the nearest abortion mill 6 miles from here in Des Plaines. And I can assure you, based on experience, there will only be a few Christians, if even that many, there and at other abortion mills. I go to abortion mills all the time. There's more Catholics than Christians.
To the pastor's talk.
no, I mean,
You're welcome.
yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
Okay, tomorrow morning, if you're coming back, come on.
I didn't.
I appreciate your coming talking to
That's
us.
all we're asking.
Yeah, I'd encourage everybody at this conference to not come to the conference tomorrow and go out to the killing facilities to rescue the children being murdered.
That would be a great testimony.
We're done listening to you beat the drum, okay?
That'd be a great testimony of Jesus Christ. If Christians came out from this conference tomorrow morning to the abortion mills and shut it down, that would be an awesome testimony of the gospel of Jesus Christ. The world would take notice. They would see Christians actually care. They live out the gospel.
Okay.
I'm born again.
Okay.
I donate to the pregnancy center. I do what I can.
Gotta do more than donate.
That's what most Christians do.
I can't. You're wearing a camera. I can't tell you what I've done, but I've been very sympathetic to this. This has been one of my biggest things.
Okay.
I'm encouraged that Kavanaugh got in.
He won't do anything, trust me.
We got to get more Supreme Court justices.
That won't.
Sympathetic.
No.
In 45 years, in 45, because I've studied this, in 45 years, the Supreme Court has been filled with Republicans who've done nothing but affirm Roe v. Wade. Kavanaugh won't do anything. President Trump will do nothing to abolish abortion. It's our duty to defy the federal government, to defy their tyranny, because this is tyranny, the murder of the preborn, and we need states to arise to defy the federal government over murder and to protect the preborn. And no state has done that. And check out the doctrine of the lesser magistrates. It's an older doctrine where it describes how when a higher-ranking civil authority makes unjust or immoral court opinions, laws, or policies, it's the duty of the lower-ranking civil authority, police officer in this case, to defy that opinion or that law, and if necessary, to actively resist it. So in this case, with cold-blooded murder, everybody from the governor to the police officer has a duty to ignore Roe v. Wade, ignore any evil law, and to defy it. And like the governor of Illinois, the governor of any state, they should call a special session of the legislature and ask for a bill to be placed on their desk that criminalizes abortion, no exceptions, treats it as cold-blooded murder, and it is. And the governor should sign it immediately. We haven't had one state do that in 45 years. I mean, think about it. We've had Christian governors. Mike Huckabee, Sarah Palin. I mean, that profess Christianity anyway. Mike Pence of Indiana. You have conservative states, Kansas and Oklahoma, Texas, Missouri. Still, not one single governor has interposed. Not one legislature, not one council has interposed, defied, said, they all say the same thing. The Supreme Court has ruled, therefore we can only obey. It's time that they say no. The Supreme Court's dead wrong. They're not God. We will not bow to them. We're going to protect everybody in our jurisdiction, in our state, born and pre-born. We haven't had one state do that in 45 years.
So what's the answer?
The answer is Jesus Christ, to turn to Him and obey
totally.
Him.
I'm with you, but on a practical level, I have certain beliefs, just like you guys, but obviously I'm wearing this monkey suit here. I'm limited in what I can do.
Yes.
Don't vote for pro-life people.
Because pro-life
Right.
politicians, they regulate mass murder. They say they pass bills that say how, when, and where a child can be murdered. But an abolitionist bill is a bill that criminalizes abortion, treats it as murder. Because pro-life groups, pro-life politicians, pro-life bills, they don't treat abortion as murder, as sin before God. That's why this continues, because we refuse to treat it as murder.
So why don't you guys run? I'm not being facetious, I'm being serious.
I've considered it, and we went down to Oklahoma to help out Pastor Dan Fisher. He was an abolitionist running for governor, and he lost terribly because the Christians refused to vote for him. And there were Christians, including myself, that went down there that worked hard to get him elected. I am considering running for office because I see those who are in office and they won't do anything. They refuse to interpose. They say, I'm pro-life. They're described as a godly Christian, and I'm thinking, a man who fears God. And I'm thinking, if you fear God, if you're a pro-life politician, if you hate abortion, then why are thousands of children still being butchered in your state every year? It's like, this isn't good enough. This does not honor God, because we continually bow down to the Supreme Court and treat them as God. And the Supreme Court, they don't have the authority to make law out of thin air, to do whatever they want to do. They are held accountable to the people. But that's not how most people in this country think. They think the Supreme Court has ruled, therefore I can only obey. But that's not right. And the founding fathers said, they went against the Supreme Court because of it. Because even back then, the Supreme Court was usurping their constitutional restraints. I mean, Thomas Jefferson, he spent the last 23 years of his earthly life waging war against the Supreme Court because he saw they were going too far